Hello and welcome to this webinar today. I'm Francis Seeley from GlobalNet 21 and I'd like to welcome you to this webinar where we actually look at how we can use social media more effectively. Lots of councillors and lots of council officers have asked how we can do that, and so we're going to try and look at that and some basic tools. As I say, I'm from GlobalNet 21 and we set up some time ago to get people engaged on some of the big issues of our 21st century. We've got about 30,000 people in our networks and we hold about 75 events a year. And many of those are online webinars like this one, and some indeed are global. And you can find out more about us in the link that we'll send to you after the webinar is over. We work with the Local Government Information Unit and we do several webinars with them as well as seminars. And the Local Government Information Unit, as you know, is a think tank for local democracy. And they do a lot of events, and as well as that, they produce and publish a lot of excellent briefing papers. And again, we'll give you the link to their website so you can go and see what they do when this webinar is over and we send you out the recording. So I hope you will look at those and find out information that could be useful for you. Councillors and officers are very keen on using social media for a whole series of reasons, partly to promote what they do, to let more people know about the issues that they have to deal with every day, to inform citizens. And what we're going to try and do in this webinar is look at some of the basic uses of social media, how we can use it, what we can do with it, and some of the tools that we can use as well to make that more effective. We are living in an age of the digital revolution, which is increasing at a very fast pace. And we're now in a network society with network countries and network cities. And we also need network councils and network councillors. Now, this doesn't mean we have to tear down the town hall and public meetings or not go to community forums that we may create, but we know the attendance at those forums are often declining and often the same suspects turn up. So councillors and officers are looking at innovative ways in which they can attract new audiences and larger audiences in discussing the issues that affect them on a day-by-day basis. And often they think social media is the answer to that. Well, let's start by looking at what social media can do and what it might do to help us. Sophie Brendel is head of digital communications at the BBC, and she gives us her tips for organisations and individuals using social media. Now, this video is only about a minute long, but it does lay down some basic, not rules, but some basic ideas of how digital media and what sort of digital media can be used. So let's listen to it now.
So, social media is a fantastic tool to make organisations and individuals more open and transparent, to be able to talk directly to people and engage with them, and also to be able to respond and rebut when necessary. So in terms of my top tips for how to use social media, first, have some guidelines that you adhere to, whether they're for official and professional use or whether they're for personal use and the mix that you want to get across, be that on Twitter or Facebook or elsewhere. Listen to what your audiences are talking about, and have that inform how you respond and what you talk about too. Come up with interesting strategies for the content that you have as ways of getting out and building communities. Think about what that content is and how you can make it multimedia, use videos, use images, not just always text. And think about how you respond and how you correct things when they're incorrect. Use websites, use blogs if that's relevant to you, use Twitter, and there are lots of other social media platforms out there too, so you can start to build a bit of an integrated network and really get out and build community around your content.
Okay, so that was Sophie talking about some of the advantages of using social media, and she talked about strategy and she talked about engagement. Now, there are a huge number of social media tools that we can use, and they're growing all the time. And sometimes it's terribly confusing as to know which ones we should use and which ones we shouldn't. And often it's a case of experimenting as well and finding out what is appropriate for us. So we're going to really concentrate on a number of social media tools. We're going to look at websites. We're going to look at Twitter. We're going to look at Facebook, and we're going to look at the use of video. Those are some of the main ones that people use now and some of the most important. Of course, there are others. There's LinkedIn, there's Google Plus, and there's Instagram. We may mention them, and we may mention some others as well. But basically, we're going to concentrate on the four that I mentioned earlier, because they're the ones that are easiest and will have the most effect. Let's first of all listen to a councillor, Councillor Falam Khan, and this is another video. And it's interesting because he talks about how Brighton and Hove are using social media for their purposes. And that's quite an interesting video clip, because he talks particularly about how social media is used to promote the work that they do.
We hired a social media officer about 6 or 7 months ago. It was a little bit controversial at the time because people were wondering what the benefits of it actually were. But the benefits are enormous. If people are having a conversation about you, and there are 200 or 300 people having that conversation, you need to be part of that conversation. So what the benefits are for us as a city council, were that we were able to hear opinions from a wider range of people. We were getting much more information on what people wanted from us as a city. It allowed the residents of the city to set an agenda. It also had great implications on our resources. So, for example, if we wanted to get some information out to people, historically we'd have to send papers out or make telephone calls or send leaflets out. And that was all very time consuming and sometimes wasn't particularly beneficial. But being on Facebook, being on Twitter, being on YouTube means that we can have that conversation very quickly. It means we can see trends of things that are happening within the city. So if we got 10 or 12 or 15 people writing in or calling in about the same issue, we could then just put some information out on our website or on Facebook or on Twitter, and they'd be able to get that information very quickly. So in terms of resources, it's very beneficial. In terms of public engagement, it's incredibly important. There are a couple of pieces of legislation where we have a duty to promote local democracy. What we were finding from our focus groups was that people who are 20 to 40 years old just weren't getting involved. They weren't actively engaged with politicians or public services. They wanted information much more quickly, and they just found the whole system beforehand a lot more frustrating. So what we've done is provide a tool for them to get in contact with us, to have a conversation about what they need, what their requirements are, and that conversation is very, very quick, and they really appreciate that. For example, when we did the focus groups, a lot of the people in the city thought we dealt with pavements, which is what we do, and we deal with collecting bins, which is what we do, but they didn't realise that there were 750 other services that we provided. And so that allowed us to impart that kind of information to them about the nighttime economy, which a lot of residents thought was dealt with by the police, or adult social care and health, which was perceived to be just done by the NHS. So what we've been doing is developing a much more intensive dialogue with residents in the city, finding out what they want, and turning the culture of our organisation to be a much more customer-focused service.
Okay, so we've just heard Councillor Falam Khan talk about the value of social media for him. He's talked about being part of the conversation, the importance about listening and hearing. He's also talked about how the digital world can save on resources and be cost effective. And he talked about how through the digital media age, we can pick up trends, what's happening out there, which helps councillors and councils to develop policy more effectively. And he also talked about how digital ways of communicating are ones that appeal to young people. So he's talked about a lot of values that are important to him. However, the problem is for many councils as they look upon social media as a one-way flow. They look upon it as a way in which they can tell people about what they're doing rather than listening to what people want. And social media is not about that. Social media is about a two-way flow. It's not about someone saying, my traditional meetings are in decline, I'm looking for a new audience that's larger and social media might provide it. If we only think that way, we're not going to succeed. Social media is about building relationships, and it's about developing what's called intentional communities, and we'll come to that a bit later. Social media is what it says. It's social media. It's not about formality. It's not about making long speeches. It's about informal contacts, and it's about building relationships. And most of all, it's about people seeing you not as an authority figure, but as a human being that they can relate to. Let's listen to some councillors who actually attended a local government association conference on social media, and let's hear what they have to say about social media and some of the tips they've given us about how you can use it most effectively.
My top tips for councillors using social media is to be yourself, to be human, show people that you can make mistakes, show people that you're accountable, but most of all, tell people what you're doing for them. Know the message that you're trying to get out there and know who you're talking to in order to be able to phrase your message appropriately. And then overall, the important thing is to get onto all these social media networks and listen. Look at what's being said about your area of responsibility, and then that gives you a great amount of ability to then be able to react and actually go back to them people and finish the job.
Top tips for other councillors using social media is, and I think everyone's probably said it, be yourself, use what suits you to begin with so that you get used to it. But one of the biggest things I would say as a top tip is either organise a social media surgery or go to a local social media surgery. I'm really promoting socialmediasurgery.com, which won a Big Society Award in 2012, but it's a great opportunity to either meet other people who are trying to help people get online, or you can actually be the person to help them get online. So I would really say go and find out about if there's any social media surgeries being run in your area, and you can go to that website and put in your postcode and find out. A couple of other top tips is think about really simple things like I use audioboo.fm and I will promote that to the hilt. It's another free platform, but our local media use my audio booth, my podcast, my interviews that I do with individuals. They use it directly on the local news website to enhance their stories. So, I'm actually contributing to the debate. I'm actually enabling it to get out there in the public domain, and that's what it's there for. So that would be my top tip.
What I would use social media for is certainly to promote the work that you do yourself in the ward, to promote your elected role, and also to promote your community. But I would also as well, I wouldn't just limit it to that. Try and break it down a little bit into some, fun items. Don't just post text if you're using Twitter. Post some photographs as well, post some videos, post some links to your websites that might be a bit interactive to explain what you've been talking about in previous tweets. Perhaps as well, if you feel comfortable, just to break a bit down about what you do outside of the council role. So you're not always talking about political items or community items, just to break that relationship down between the electorate and the members and councillors.
Okay, so those are some councillors who attended an LGA conference, and they obviously were very keen on social media, and they had picked up a few tips on how to use it and what to do in their enthusiasm. Okay, so if we go to the slideshow, you can see that what they talked about was how you should interact with your audience by learning and responding, also by how you build relationships with your audience, and how you use social media to encourage online debate and online discussion. And all those things they thought were really important. One councillor mentioned social media surgeries. Now, they're quite useful, and if there are any in your area, they are probably worth going to, because you'll get a lot more hands-on experience than you will on a webinar like this. And they're held all around the country. And if you go for the site here, and we'll send you the link as well of this so that you can click on it and see it. If you go to it, you'll be able to see if there is a media surgery in your part of the country. And if not, you can contact Social Media Surgery to see if one can be started in your area. But they're very worthwhile surgeries to actually go to. Also, the local government information unit often runs seminars on using social media, and they've done several of these, and they've got one coming up on May the 25th. And that course will look at popular methods of social media and help you decide what is the best one suited for you. And again, there'll be more hands-on experience, and then it's a face-to-face seminar. So if you're interested in that, then go to the OGRU site and got the link there, and join up to that, because you, I think, will enjoy it. Now, how do counsellors then, and indeed councils, use social media, and how is it important for them, and what effect can it actually have? Well, one way they use it, and one way counsellors can use it, and indeed officers around a particular issue, is by developing websites or writing blogs. And I know many counsellors have websites, and many of them like to write blogs, and some officers like to do the same. And they're a very useful and important way of communicating to people online. There are various platforms that you can use for developing websites or developing blogs. One is WordPress. Now, WordPress is one that's quite commonly used by many people. It can be quite a complex system to use sometimes, but if you get used to it, and you may want to talk to your IT people if you use WordPress, but if you do talk to them, you will find it a very useful tool. You can use lots of apps for WordPress. For example, you can use an app called BuddyPress, which means that you can get your subscribers are people who watch WordPress and who write into you through the site saying they're interested in what you're doing, to become members of your site, and they can develop a profile of your own. That's how President Obama developed his campaign 8 years ago. He got people who were interested in what he was doing in his campaign to log on to a site, and then they gave them a profile, and they felt more involved. They felt an ownership of what they were doing, and WordPress allows you to do that. But it's slightly more complex, and you might want something that's slightly simpler. Now, Weebly or Wix are two sites that are quite simple to set up websites, and it might be ones that you look at. For example, in GlobalNet 21, we use the Wix platform, and you can see it there at our website address, and you have it there, and it has a lot of features. I hope you can see it, but if you look on this website, and I'll expand it out, you can see that there are a number of if you like, applications that you can add to your site. You can add a store, not that you would need to do that, but you can add events. You can add events to your site. There's a special app to do that. Email marketing is about sending out newsletters to those people who are on your site. You can engage with people onto one-to-one conversations. You can have mailboxes, invoices. You can actually add contacts to your website, people that who say they're interested in what you're doing. If I click on that on my site, you should see, there you are, you see all of my contacts coming up, and there's a huge number, and you can organize them into groups. So when you send a mail shot out, you can actually segment your contact list into groups and send a mail shot just to one group who may be interested in just one particular issue. So that's a very useful thing to do. And of course, you can get visitor analytics, and you can get a site booster and so on. But all those are really, really interesting ways of adding to your website. So if you're interested in that particular site, then please, go and it. It's one that can easily be set up. You can edit it quite easily. If you go to it, you will find that when you go to the editor, you can just drag and drop things onto the basic template. They give you some templates that you can work from, so that makes it easier. And you can then, add text, add pictures, add video, add whatever you want. So Wix is a very good platform, and you might want to look at that. And if you go back to our slide presentation now, if I can get there, which I will very soon, you see that we're talking here about the site we've just seen. But if you don't want to use Wix, because even that's too complicated for you, though you would get used to it if you did use it. You can go to a simpler site even. And there is a site set up specially for counsellors. It's called yourcounsellor.com. And that offers websites to counsellors. And those are politically branded websites if you want them. And they can be designed for counsellors and politicians using templates. And you have a choice of whether to be a sole counsellor or to have a group site. Now, a group site is if you have, say, 2, 3 or 4 counsellors in a ward, you can set up a ward site with all your 4 counsellors on, or you can set up a site for yourself alone, excuse me, as a single politician. This particular site has a number of options, like Wix, but these are very similar. You can do newsletters, you can set up contacts, you can add your priorities, you can have a contact page, you can have free hosting as well on the website. But if you look down, if you go to this, if you look at the recording and you look at all the features and go to the page that I've just mentioned, then you will find it really, really useful. And it's not expensive. If you set up a sole site just for yourself, it's about £9 a month, cheaper if you buy it by the year. And if you set up a group site, a ward site, in other words, that would cost, I think, about £12 a month. And again, cheaper if you buy it by the year. So it's worth looking at that. Well, let's go and look at a sample site from that particular counsellor.com. Okay, just have a quick look at that a minute and see the features on it. Okay, what you can see on it is a counsellor with his photograph. You can see that he's put latest news of what he's doing. He's put a list of his priorities and some quick links to things that he thinks are really, really important. Now, that's basically it. It's a promotional website telling people what he does. And it's very little else, but it's very, very useful if that's what you want to do. They're very useful to get your message out and to promote what you do. But of course, we're in the age of social media now, and social media is about engagement, and engagement is about 2 things. It's about creating relationships with the people you engage with online, and it's about creating what is called intentional networks, and we'll come to that. Relationships is obviously not just about promoting. It's not just about soapboxing. It's not about getting up there, putting material on, saying, I'm counsellor so-and-so, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. It's about creating a flow of interaction between the people who listen to you, you listening to what they say and talking to them and creating some sort of relationship. But it's also about creating communities online. And that's what an intentional network is. It's a network set up to achieve a goal, an outcome, and a community with intent. Now, for example, you may want to start a campaign, a fundraising campaign. You might want to promote a charity, and you can set up a network around that. That's a network with an intent to achieve one of those goals. And setting up those networks is really a part of the art of social media engagement. We recently did a webinar with Ben Lee from Shared Intelligence on intentional communities, where he described what they are and how you can start one up. And if you want to get that webinar and listen to that, then you can do that through the Local Government Information Unit. They've got the link to that, and you will be able to get that webinar and see what he says. We're also doing a seminar on March the 14th with Ben Lee, taking part in that, which is on place-based networking and social prescription. And that is an intentional network, a network set up to link together local authorities, health authorities, community groups, and people in need in order to create better health and well-being. And we're going to look at how you set up those intentional networks to achieve that in that particular seminar. And again, if you'd like to join that, the link is there. So please go to it and join us there. Anyhow, how do you set up your networks? How do you develop them? Well, you do it by using some of the tools that exist. And 2 of the most useful tools are Twitter and Facebook. And they're certainly at the moment of time the most popular tools that people use. We're going to look now at another video, and this is a video by James Cousins, who uses Twitter quite a lot. And he's going to tell us a bit about how he uses Twitter and the advantages of using Twitter. So let's listen to his video now.
You've seen all the hype and decided as a council you absolutely must start using social media. Perhaps even worse, someone's told you should be using social media. So what do you do next? What do you have to do differently? Well, add content apart from getting online, signing up and using them, not that much. The secret really is about being human. For the purposes of this video, I'm going to refer to an example using Twitter. Not because it's the latest greatest thing, but I think it's one of the better ones for creating and having those conversations. But this applies to any website that has an interactive element where members can sign up and talk to each other. It could be Facebook or MySpace, even YouTube or Flickr. Perhaps even you have your own local web forum where residents are already talking. The best analogy to use is a party. If you turn up slightly late to a party, the conversations will have already started. People will be talking about things that interest them. You can join those conversations, you might start your own conversation, or even switch between conversations when something catches your ear. For example, I was on Twitter during the heavy snowfall last February and overheard the following. This gave me the opportunity to follow up and try and get some more information. And in this example, I had the opportunity to explain the council was doing all that it could in some very difficult and challenging circumstances. Returning to the party analogy, if you'd have been at a party and overheard someone complaining about your council, you'd have spoken to them, found out exactly what the problem was. You may have been able to solve their problem then and there, or you may have had to take it away to discuss with colleagues and officers and return to them at a later date. At the very least, it would have given you the opportunity to explain why the council was behaving in a way they deemed to be unsatisfactory. It may be a matter of council policy or even legal restrictions placed on the council. But it's that human contact that's important, the fact you took the time to talk to them. And that's where social media really comes into its own. It allows you to talk to residents at a time and place where they're congregating, when they are raising problems. I think this is more and more important in a time when people are increasingly seeing politicians on a Muppet Superman continuum. Residents often see politicians as Muppets, basically ineffectual, only really in it for themselves. On the other hand, politicians feel they have to portray themselves as some sort of Superman, never ever making mistakes, always making the right decisions, and when they don't, certainly never admitting it. In fact, we all fall between those two extremes. In this life, we're all human, and social media allows us to behave in that way. It's not us broadcasting our message in the way that we do with a leaflet through the door. It's actually us having a dialogue with residents and talking to them and allowing them to tell us what they find important. Politicians have always had to adapt to technology, from the telephone to television, and this is no different. It's not going to replace other forms of engagement, but it's going to become an important part of our engagement toolkit. The question I would ask is, if you'd respond to a resident when you overheard them complaining at a party, maybe in a queue at the shop or down at your local pub, why don't you respond to them when you can hear about them talking about their problems online?
Okay, so we listened to James, and it's quite interesting because he uses Twitter quite effectively. He uses it to find out what's happening and to respond to people. He thinks human contact is important, and Twitter for him is like the old days when he would go down to the pub and he'd go and he'd meet people in his ward and he would talk to them and communicate with them, and Twitter does that. So he uses Twitter to respond and to interact in that way. In fact, we had one councillor here locally during the riot a few years ago, went out in his car and started tweeting about what was happening, if there was any damaged shops, what was happening, so people knew, and people would retweet what he was doing so people could find out about it. If you see a tweet, for example, on Twitter that you think is really useful, like the ones that came in from that councillor, you can retweet it by pressing a retweet button, and it goes out to everyone in your contacts. So it's really worth doing because it keeps people up to date. It lets them know what's happening. People often use it in all sorts of activist situations that they find themselves in. So Twitter is an important thing to use. So if we go back to the presentation, you'll see a site, I hope it's come up now, you'll see a site called Tweety Hall. Now, Tweety Hall is a site which will help you learn a bit more about Twitter, and it's Yeah, it's worth looking at it. I was just checking to see if the website's on it, and it is. And you can, when this webinar is over, go to that site. And Tweety Hall, it was specially set up to look at councillors and officers, but particularly councillors who use Twitter. It has a lot of information on it. For example, it has articles about Twitter. Obviously, you can see this screen grab is a very old one because Eric Pickles is on it and he's no longer community secretary, but it does have a lot of articles on. But what's more important, it does have a list of all the councillors who actually use Twitter. And if you go to their Twitter sites, and you can do it by clicking on any of those councillors who use it, you can see how they use it. And that will give you some idea to go by to help you develop your own Twitter strategy if you see how they use it, how they link with their communities. I've just put up a link to 2 councillors whose Twitter sites I thought were quite useful. I'm not going to show them now, but I put it up so that you can go and look at them if you want to get some idea about how they use sites, and if that is useful to you to be able to sort of replicate what they do or look at different ways in which you can develop your Twitter strategy. So Twitter is used for several reasons. It's used to inform people. It's used to listen what's going on, to find out what's trending in an area, whether there's any, disgruntlement over any service in an area, whether there's strong disgruntlement or whether it's only mild. You can find out more about your area. It's used to help people. You can give advice, like the councillor who went out and let people know about what was happening in the riots. And it's also used very often to tell people about council meetings and events. Jane Geldart, for example, is a councillor who did do that. She used Twitter to tweet out what was happening at a council meeting. She argued this is a public meeting and people don't necessarily have to come in the town hall to take part. They can be out in the digital town hall and I can tweet out what's happening. I could tell them. And so she's done that. Now, some councils encourage that. Some councils ban that. And I think at least one council actually suspended a councillor for doing that. But I think that's quite a shame because, being able to tweet out what's happening at a meeting in the digital age, when the digital town hall is much larger than the real one, is an important function for the future. I often do meetings in the House of Commons hosted by an MP, and often you see the MP next to me tweeting out during the meeting, and he's tweeting about the meeting. He's saying what the topic is. He's saying how many people are there. He's giving news about the meeting, and that helps. That helps to create a wider engagement than just the people you see face to face. So tweeting out meetings is one way that people use Twitter. If you actually go to Jane's Twitter page, you can see what it looks like. You can see that she sent out nearly 4,000 tweets, probably over that now. She's got 639 people following her, and she follows 1,160 people. Now, she follows people because she has an interest in them. You can actually do a search on Twitter to see what people might be interested in a particular campaign that you're keen on. For example, if you're interested in combating loneliness and you type in loneliness or loneliness in Camden, I think where she comes from, you will get lots of people coming up who are in that area concerned with that issue. And all you do is then ask them to follow you. And you don't ask them to follow you, you follow them. And the likelihood is that if you follow them, they may then follow you. You can incidentally ask them to follow you. You can tweet to them directly, because when you go onto Twitter, you can tweet to all your audience, or you can tweet to one person, and you can ask them to follow you, and you can explain that you would like them to follow you because they come from your area or they're interested in your issue. You can also see that they are that she has a number of people following her, and that's quite a huge number. So that's a pretty good way of creating an audience that you can then communicate with in an effective way. Joining up to Twitter is not difficult. All you have to do is to put your name in, your email, and a password, and you can link into Twitter straight away, and that gets you on the site. Once you're on Twitter, you can also use something called hashtags. Now, they're very interesting, because if you create a hashtag and you click on the hashtag, it will come up with a page of people who have also used that hashtag. So if you wanted a campaign to save hospitals, or a campaign to actually, that's spelt wrong, isn't it, hospital? But anyhow, if you wanted a campaign to save Luton Hospital or Reading Hospital, you can create a hashtag, let those people who are interested in the campaign know about that hashtag, and everyone can type news on Twitter with that hashtag. Then when you go to click on the hashtag, you get a page of all those people interested in that campaign. It's a way of making sure you don't get messages lost in the chaos of all the Twitter audience you've got, but just a specific one. And you can do that with a number of other campaigns too. You can do one on loneliness or many other issues you're interested in. We actually occasionally work with a group called Empowerment Hour, and they use a hashtag called #Empowerment Hour. And they do what's called a Twitter chat. For an hour, they will chat about a particular issue, like domestic violence. They did 1 week for an hour. Another week they did an hour on multiculturalism. Another week they did an hour on, after Brexit, what happens, and so on and so on. And people come on and they join in a conversation on Twitter between each other. They send tweets to each other with the hashtag Empowerment Hour. So if you click on Empowerment Hour, you see all that chat going on. And it's a way of people engaging locally, and indeed, in the case of Empowerment Hour, across the globe, which is really an interesting way of doing things. Twitter is also often used for what's called sentiment analysis. Now, sentiment analysis is what Councillor Conn talked about when he talked about trending. You can find out what subjects people feel strongly about in a particular area and a particular locality. And if you combine Twitter with Facebook and Google and everything, and you can see what's trending on all those, you can get a picture of what's happening in a local area that's probably more effective than a focus group, and even more effective than the local referenda, because it changes over time from day to day. You can see how people's feelings change about issues. And lots of people are using sentiment analysis. And obviously, they use, in many cases, professional companies to do that. Transport people often use sentiment analysis to see, whether people are angry about what's happening on the roads, about traffic, jam spots, and so on, so that they can look at what's happening, not only about the amount of traffic that is going on, and I mean web traffic in this case, about a particular issue, but how angry people are, and they can then begin to address it. And they can see, whether there is a particular junction that's not working well, whether there's a lot of anger and maybe road rage in that area, and they begin to tackle that. And you can do that not just on traffic, you can do it in lots of things: gangs, youth alienation, loneliness, and much more. It's called big data, and people are actually increasingly using big data to find out these things. Now, I don't expect us to use it, because that's a very professional thing to do, but we can do it in a very amateurish way, if you like. We can use our Twitter accounts and our other accounts to see what people are talking about in our own area and get some idea, and then engage with people to see if we can solve problems that are coming up. There are also a number of apps that are increasingly being used in order to engage people locally. And one of those apps is one called TryGive, which is quite an interesting app. I don't know how successful it's going to be, but it's a way in which people out in the community can leave messages as they go around. It's being piloted in my area in the London Borough of Enfield, and it's been piloted by neighbourhood watch groups and the police. And people can put messages on it, and you get a map with a little information icon, and you click on it, you can see what's happening in that area. So I've just opened mine now, and if I click on it, it says tonight at 6:30 a local male had been arrested in that area by the local community policeman for breaching his criminal behaviour order. And so people can put all sorts of information about crime in the area, about loneliness in the area, about social problems in the area. And it's really worth looking at. Now, as I say, it could be used for other means, and there are similar apps, I'm sure, that can be used to define dangerous road box accidents and much more. But they're useful to have. I don't know how successful they will be, and many other apps will develop over time. But if you're interested in looking at and seeing if it's appropriate for your area, the website is there, which is trygive.co.uk. Now with Twitter, you can have photos and videos, so you can show photos and videos of your meetings as they happen. But some people don't just want to put a message over in 170, 171 characters or whatever it is that you use on Twitter. They want to build a more ongoing community. And to do that, many of them use Facebook. Now, some councillors use Facebook to create a community and then engage with it. And some try to develop a page in order to promote a cause. But one thing that's quite important is to try to disassociate any personal information you put on from what you do in terms of business or your councillor's work. If you want to put information on about your children and grandchildren, you don't put it on your councillor page. You try to maybe have two accounts and separate it. And if you go to the workshops that LGIU does, that is very heavily stressed, and I think it's an important point. But if you do use Facebook for councillor business, then you can set up a page. It's easy to set up a page, and you put content on it. You put postings on it about something that you're interested in. You may set up a page about you. You may set up a page about a campaign you're involved in. And if you were to do it about a campaign you're involved in, you would put postings about news about that campaign so that people can be kept up to date. And then you would ask people to like your page. You would get your friends on Facebook, and you can create friends on Facebook to like your page. You would ask them to get their friends to like that page. And the more people you get to like your page, all those people will see updates when you put it on your page. So it's a good way of keeping people up to date about campaigns. But some people want to do more than that. They want to create a community that they can interact with. So they want to go beyond that. As we see, you can use the page to follow a campaign or yourself and get people to like it. But groups are something else. You can use Facebook to set up groups. And groups are where not just you, but those people on the group can also make postings, and they can interact with each other. In Waltham Forest, for example, one councillor has done just that. Karen Bellamy, who is a councillor, has set up a Facebook page, and she, if you can't read it very well, it says here that what she's done is she's posted material on here about where she's going to be and what she's going to be doing and where people can meet her, and that's really a useful thing to do. She also uses it to post news about what's happening in the area. So there was an attack in her area, and she did a posting on it and asked people to contact the police if they had any information. But she also uses it as a way to interact. So, for example, someone wanted to know about what was happening with work on the pavements in a particular road where there was a problem, and she could come on straight away and respond to that and tell people about it. And by having that site, she can respond to people continuously when they come up with information. And that's a very, very valuable thing to do. Now, Karen Bellamy set up her own group, but you don't have to set up your own group. If you do a search on Facebook under your postcode or under your town or city or county or borough, you will find that there are probably lots of groups that already exist. And rather than setting up your own group, you can join those groups and take part in them. For example, I did a search in my own area in Enfield, and I found a lot of groups. These are only some of them. There are a lot more. Enfield Local Communities Together, Enfield Refugees Welcome, and so on. Love Your Doorstep, for example, has about 17,000 people on it. So there is a lot of people out there you can engage with. So you would join those groups and you would engage with people, and you might find people are asking questions that are council orientated, and you can go on and respond to them. And that's a way of getting recognition and making councillors more accessible to the general public. Of course, you can also start a group which is specifically for dealing with social, campaign and political issues at the local level. For example, we've done that in Enfield, and we've called it Enfield Voices. Enfield Voices, we've said, is set up for those interested in discussing the big social, economic and political issues that face us and how they impact on us locally. So we've set that site up. We've got nearly 1,000 people on that. And we put news on. For example, there's a posting that I put up about the closure of a Citizens Advice Bureau. And at the bottom, you can see the beginning of a discussion that took place around that. And that's quite useful because people then get to know what's going on, what people think about it. And if you're a councillor, you can go on and you can see the feeling that people have, and you can respond to it and add a comment yourself. You can also, other people can come on, not just you, and put stuff on about meetings that they're going to and things that are happening locally. And somebody here, actually, Ros Lucas, as you see, can put a comment on about a meeting that she was involved in organising that she found was quite fantastic. And other people responded to that and talked about it. I also used it to try and engage councillors because we have a lot of councillors on that site. So I put up a posting about one councillor, for example, talking about the work that he's done in community education. He actually was instrumental with a dedicated officer to develop what was called a pop-up university locally. So I put a posting on about that so people could see it, hoping that he would see it as well. And he did. And he came back and he talked about it. And said who was involved, the officer, and so on. And they began a discussion around that and the idea of a pop-up university. And some people looked and said, that's a great idea. I didn't know about it. I hope we can do more of that. Then, because he's engaged and he got to know about the site and he saw how useful it was, when I put a posting up again about how Enfield is developing its own energy company, its own energy system for the distribution and partly production of energy, then he responded to that by saying, yeah, we're in the lead on that. All councillors like to make you believe they're in the lead on it. But in some ways, Enfield is on that. So I asked him to give me information about it, who the lead officer was, and he did on the site. I contacted the lead officer, and now we're going to be doing a webinar with him. And we're also going to be doing a seminar with the local government information unit on energy and sustainability. And that was all because of using Facebook in this way and engaging councillors. So you can engage councillors, and a councillor can engage themselves with the public by using tools like this. Now, the final thing I want to talk about is videos. Google has said that in a few years' time, something like, I can't remember the exact percentage, but something like 75% of all interactions on the web will be video. So getting used to video is really, really important, because if we don't, we'll miss out. But you don't need to be frightened by it, because using video and doing video blogs is actually a lot easier than doing text blogs. You may not believe it, but it can be quite a simple thing to do. Some councillors use Facebook Live and other video platforms to develop video blogs. Let's quickly look at a video that Tom Slade did. He's a London City councillor, and he uses blogs, video blogs in the work he does. Now, don't get overawed by this, because this is a professional video that he's created, and they don't have to be professional like this. And it probably cost him a bit of money to do this, but you can do it for free. And I'll tell you about that after we've seen the video. So let's look at the video first.
My name is Tom Slay. I'm a councillor in the City of London for the ward of Bishopsgate. So when I ran for election in the first place, I decided to try and be as contemporary as possible, so use different forms of media, not just leaflets, which people traditionally have relied on. And video blogging was one which Warner Media proposed as a great way to kind of get in touch with the voters and with people who have concerns in the local area, and of course with anyone more widely who's interested in the kind of things that we're talking about. So I did a video blog the day after I got elected.
Thank you to everybody who helped deliver leaflets and write messages and knock on doors. So the work starts now.
Another one within a month.
If you walk down Bishopsgate, you'll see potholes, you'll see constant roadworks. Now, I've spoken with Transport for London more than once about this, and we've had quite a good dialogue.
They were watched by a large number of people, including some of the chairmen of the committees in the City of London. And together we've worked with the city officers, and we've now, within almost 3 months of being elected, got a trial of bins on the main road in my ward where there was a chronic problem with litter. Now, to get a local authority to react within 3 months is astounding. It's credit to the city, but it's also credit to the fact that the video blog made a real impact and people were talking about it, and it's delivered real change. One of the great benefits of video communication for someone in public life is it breaks down the barriers between us and the voters. People are constantly watching TV and interacting on the internet. People tend not to pick up and read leaflets that go through the door. So this is a modern and an effective way of working. Another big benefit for me of working with Warner Media has been their agility and their adaptability. So we can make things happen very quickly. I can record stuff at home and send it in, get it edited and sent back. They're also not bound by, I think, traditional media models. In fact, Warner Media have come to me with some really great new ideas for ways to reach out to voters and break down those barriers. So the benefits have been pretty clear for me as a businessman and as a politician. It's not only that they're professional and apolitical and get it, which a lot of people don't get politics, but they get it. It's actually that they're clearly really passionate about what they do, but also about what their clients do and how they can use their media to inspire people and to make things happen.
Okay, so you saw that video, and that was sort of quite interesting because it talked about how he uses video blogs to affect change and change in his own local area, breaks down barriers between politicians and citizens, and it allows him to report quickly. Now, that's a very professional blog, and he obviously took a lot of care in doing that, but you don't have to have it that slick. Blogs are often done very easily, and with blogs and with social media, people don't expect strictness necessarily. They know that ordinary people use it, and they expect it to be fairly casual. And if mistakes are made, they accept that much more easily than they would if you were watching, say, a BBC program. So how do you do video blogs, and how do you get video onto the web and onto the digital platforms without having to spend the sort of money that he may have got it free, I don't know, but that he may have done? Well, let's go back to the presentation. And we can see that it's coming up now. I hope you've got it if it's coming up. The major platforms for offering videos are Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. You can use all those to actually develop videos. You can use Twitter, for example. Twitter is about doing text, yes. It's about sending tweets out in 170 characters. But Twitter recently has done something really interesting, and that's they've added videos to their Twitter platform. And if you go to your mobile or your computer or your iPad or your tablet and post something on Twitter, when you do that, it gives you the option to actually write something in text, to put a photograph on, or to go to a camera. When you click on the camera, then it gives you the option to go to the still camera or a video. And when you click on video, you then get a picture of yourself and a little caption say "Go live." Once you press "Go live," then what you're doing, what is being seen, goes live out onto your Twitter feed, and it goes through a platform called Periscope. You would have to add Periscope to your phone if you were going to use it. It's very simple to do. It's not difficult. You can get help from your IT department, I'm sure, if you had to. But if you add Periscope, link it to your Twitter account, then you can send out streamed material live onto your Twitter account. And what's interesting is that, that's not included in your 170 characters. So you can put 170 characters saying what the video is about and a live video of what's happening when you're doing it. So Twitter is giving you the opportunity to do that. Also, YouTube. This particular webinar is being recorded as we do it on YouTube, and that will be available to anyone to watch who we send the link to. But you can You don't have to use this webinar platform to do that. You can go to YouTube Direct if you have a YouTube account, and you can set up a YouTube account very easily. And that gives you the option to go to live video, and you can record a live video. Again, you might want to talk to your IT people about that, because you need an encoding platform as well, like Livestream or OBS. OBS is free. I have OBS, and all I do is I've downloaded OBS on my computer. I open it up, link it to the YouTube channel that I've got, and then I can go live, and it's streamed out and also recorded. So you may need a little help on that. But what is easier than probably even than YouTube and even Twitter is Facebook. Facebook is now taking over live streaming in many, many ways for ordinary people and ordinary citizens through Facebook Live. If you go to your Facebook account, you can either go to your own timeline, or you can go to your page, or you can go to your group. And when you click on go to post, say you've got a group like we have MPhil Voices, I can go to MPhil Voices. I can click on post, and then it gives me the option to post text or to go onto live video, Facebook Live. If I click the live video one, again, I get a picture of me. And once I click go live or start or whatever it says there, or it says live, just click live, and suddenly a picture will appear of you on your phone, and you can talk into it. And of course, if you have your phone, you can take it around and interview people. Now, lots of people use Facebook Live like that. I've used it at meetings to say we're going to start a meeting. We've got a large audience here. We've got some interesting people. And I've used it to interview speakers. I've gone up and I've used it in that way, which is very, very good way of doing it. If you do it on a page, by the way, it's a lot easier, because when you go to post on a Facebook page, you get all these options coming up. And one of them, the last one, says start a live video. And you click on that and it takes you to the video live, which you can then click and go and start your live streaming. Of course, what happens is you can also write something when you do your video. It gives you a little text box, and you can say what the video is about, so that when people see it going live, you give it some context. And then once you've clicked go live, there you are on the video, and you can start talking about whatever the topic is you want to talk about. Of course, with most mobile phones, you can actually take a picture of what you're seeing outside, and by flicking the camera around, by pressing a button, the camera then goes on you rather than what's happening. So you can either talk directly to the camera and tell people what's happening, or you can interview someone by showing what's out there, and it could be a person that you're interviewing, and you can click between those two different shots of the camera, and you can make a nice little interview that goes out live on Facebook. So someone could interview a councillor, or you could interview someone in your own ward that, you know, is doing something that's very valuable. What you can't do yet on Facebook, which would be really nice, is have split screen. Now, on this site, you can have split screen. There's no one else on here at the moment, so there is no split screen. But one we did a little while ago, we did with a split screen. So there's me and there's the other person on the site. So if I was doing an interview, I would be able to ask him questions and he could answer. And, you know, if we could do that with councillors or officers, it would be great. Now, it's rumoured that from November, Facebook will be offering this split screen facility for Facebook Live. And I'm hoping that when that happens, we can use it on MPhil Voices. I can encourage councillors to come on, and we can interview councillors about the work they're doing, about the issues they're passionate about, and it will go directly on the Facebook Live MPhil News site, MPhil Voices site rather. And then what's interesting in that, as it's going out live, people can then write comments and ask questions underneath, and you can pick those up and give it to people. So it's a wonderful way of engaging a new audience, and I think that's going to be very much the way of the future. And I think councillors and officers should seriously think about how they use that. And if there's anyone out there who is in a council would like to try that, would like to think about doing that, I'd be very happy to talk that over with them, because I would love to do a couple of pilots on doing that. So, for example, Alan Silkin, the councillor who was interested in the Papa University and the development of a local energy strategy, I could do an interview with him. And once the shared screen facility comes on, there I could do it that way, me and him together. I asked him questions and he answered. And you can engage a lot of people that way. It's a really good way of doing it. So I think video like this is certainly going to be a way of the future. And if Google's right, most interaction very soon is going to be video rather than text. So social media is constantly changing, and the possibilities to connect and engage are constantly growing as well. So it's a new world, and we all have to get used to it, all of us, councillors, officers, everyone else, citizens as well. And we all need to familiarise ourselves with these new tools so that we can help create a new form of democracy for our digital age. Anyhow, we've gone through then some different ways in which we can use social media. We've gone through looking at some tools that we can use in a little more detail, and ones that I think will change constantly, and ones that I think will become more important in the future. So I hope you have enjoyed this webinar and you've got something from it. If you are interested in following this up in any way or asking any questions, then please contact me, and also contact Barry in LGIU, and we'll get information to you as soon as we can. Anyhow, thank you for joining this webinar and for your patience, and we look forward to seeing you on a webinar in the future. So we will sign off now, and I'll say goodbye.